Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Mike Ames Recruitment Show. It's been a while. We've missed you guys. We're looking forward to this, where, as you can see, we're going to be talking about how you can build an online community and make money from it. Now, we have a great guest today in James Hickman, who's done this, so we're really looking forward to that. But before we get to James, we have to obviously bring Mike in. How are you doing, Mike?
If I was any better, I genuinely would be twins. I've spent the last few weeks cruising. I've been on a boat around the Mediterranean as well. So that was great. Different things, but great times. I got COVID. In fact, two people on this screen got COVID in the last week, and one of them wasn't Kirsty. So there you go.
Yeah.
But I'm back, and I'm really, really pumped up about having Jamie on the show, because I think since COVID, we all realised that you can have online communities. You can create a groups of people whose only real interaction or predominant interaction is online. And it's very powerful. And I think it's also, to many, a closed book, including me. So, hey, I'm here to listen and to learn. So let me just quickly introduce Jamie, and then I'll hand over back to Kirsty, who presumably wants to think it's her show or something, I suppose. Anyway, so Jamie's got a career which is steeped in recruitment. So right to say that he grew his own recruitment business. I think it was a search business actually, and sold it, like me. And now is the founder and owner and what did you call community manager? I think we'll be talking about that a little later, of Search Markets. And that's the reason that we wanted you on the show. So welcome, Jamie. So pleased you're here.
Thank you for having me, Mike and Kirsty.
You're very, very welcome. So as we go through, as normal, guys, if you have any questions for Jamie or Mike, although I'm willing to bet Jamie's going to be more helpful today, feel free to pop them in and I'll bring them up. But I have a question first, Jamie, to sort of kick us off, which is, we talk a lot about networks on the Mars show. Can you explain to us the difference between a community and a network?
Well, James Whitelock over at Think in Circles brought this up with me probably about 6 months ago, because I hadn't really thought about it too much up until that point. And we decided in the end that when you look at a network and you look at creating a network and joining a network, you come with a purpose in mind, but a community is more flexible than that. So essentially, you have like-minded people coming together, but over time they decide their purpose and create their own culture. So that's what's happening with Search Markets right now. When we're 9 months in, but over the last 3 months or so, I've been quite quiet in the community, because it's really up to the community members to develop their own culture and how they interact with each other.
Can I just throw in there as well? We have a definition for a network, and I'm going to support what you just said there. A network is a group of people who are willing and able to help you in your personal and professional lives. And networking is the activity of building that network. And I think what that tells me about a network is I'm building it for my benefit. I've got to benefit others it's not going to work. But it's for me. I've chosen people to be in it because they can help me and I can help them. Whereas with a community, you join and there's all sorts of people in there. Some can help, some can't, but they're all there for a common theme. Do you think that's right, Jamie?
It depends what your community is about and your network is about. Ultimately, what I run is a community help desk where people jump in and out of WhatsApp and ask a question. So often, obviously this is all talent acquisition, talent management, recruitment oriented. But I agree with what you're saying, but it really depends on what people want to get out of it themselves in the end, and it develops in that direction.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. I like the idea of it. So I understand sort of what a community is and sort of how it's, and we're going to talk later on about the major benefits that you can get from a community, why you're putting this effort in. But to start with, can we discuss how it is that we would start our community? Because it seems like a very tall mountain to climb if you're at the bottom of it. So I guess the first thing to ask would be the platform that you use to start a community.
Okay, so I it's easy to tell you how I started and what I did. Basically sold my business, had a year non-compete, and became a listener at that time. Halfway through that year, COVID happened. So everything started to go online. And I noticed there was a migration from LinkedIn to Facebook, because Facebook groups are better community groups than LinkedIn groups. Now, the recruitment communities on Facebook are also tighter, right? You find that there are a lot more in-house talent acquisition talking about trends and technology in a deeper way than on LinkedIn. And that sounds contradictory to everything you're told, right? But that's real. Get over to Hung Lee's community, Recruiting Brain Food, and you will find that the really high level talent acquisition people are talking about what they're doing and the trends within recruitment there in a completely different way to LinkedIn. So I noticed this and then just started looking at where people were hanging out. Now, I was triggered by something that I was reading on LinkedIn, because there's a lot of neurodivergent conversation on LinkedIn. And a lot of it's quite misinformed, in my opinion. I have a severely autistic son, and there's a lot of mansplaining that goes on. And so I literally was sitting on my sofa on a Friday afternoon, taking care of my son, and I was triggered by something and thought, you know what, I'm going to start a WhatsApp group. And by the end of that weekend, I had 200 people in that WhatsApp group.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
It wasn't planned. Right. I just decided inviting a whole bunch of my friends. And it was actually Adam Gordon at that point at Candidate ID, now Poetry, who said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to try to get to 250 by the end of the month. And it was like February the 3rd or something like that. And he said, why don't you try 500? And I said, okay, I'll have a crack at that. And it was like a mate challenging a mate with a KPI. And so I just started messaging people on LinkedIn saying, do you want to join my WhatsApp group? And I have 30,000-ish connections, 5,000 of them are in staffing and recruiting. And some people said yes, and some people said no. A lot of people said, I don't want to be a part of a busy WhatsApp group. And so within maybe 2 weeks, I realized that they were expecting me not to open up something on LinkedIn, but open up something on Facebook, because a lot of the guys were talent acquisition guys in recruitment community groups on Facebook. So at the end of the first month, I opened up Facebook, and then I started texting guys that I'm friends with on Facebook. And I have a bigger community on Facebook than I have on WhatsApp. Right. Now,
can I ask a question on this? Would you mind? Because we've been talking for some time about starting an online community, because we're changing our business. I won't bore you with the details. And I think an online community is going to be much more relevant to us than it was in the past. And we've had this debate between, funnily enough, LinkedIn was never in it. So it's Facebook or WhatsApp, or actually there are third-party community sites like Mighty, as you mentioned, and Six Circles, which I don't think we're going to go with. So it's really between.
I can advise you on this immediately, right? So
yeah, go.
What you've got is a marketing wheel, right? And I decided that I'd go with a triangular marketing wheel to begin with at the top of my sales funnel. So, this is outbound marketing. We're producing content. I'm really an exec search guy, so I'm more comfortable with inbound marketing, where I'm sending direct emails, making calls, and all that sort of stuff. So that was my approach to building my community. It was direct marketing to begin with. But essentially, you look at your marketing wheel and decide how you're going to feed it, right? And I have a friend from Hong Kong who's an influencer with millions of followers, and he started feeding it through TikTok, right? And so I'm on TikTok, I'm the 40-something guy who's got a TikTok account, and I was like, but I'm not really on it. I'm just checking it out, trying to work out the marketing wheel. In any case, in terms of what you guys do, if you're producing content, if you're doing training, if you're doing advisory, you head towards a Kajabi type account, right? And the e-learning platforms, right? And content creation platforms. Now, you know, ultimately, right? And this is slightly off the wall, but OnlyFans, right, is one of the best content platforms in the world. It's one of the most successful platforms in the world. And, you know, ultimately, when you're doing those types of trainings for recruitment, it's very, very similar platforms, right? Kajabi and OnlyFans are not that dissimilar in the way they function in the end.
Are you saying we need to get Mike some silk shirts? Is that what you're telling me?
Hey, earlier. Right?
I don't know what you're saying, but I like the sound of silk shirts. Just on this, let me pin you down on this in a can, and then I want to turn it towards a recruitment slant on it, because I've got a specific question around candidates and communities in a second. But are you saying then, because we've got Kajabi, that's our platform, we use Kajabi, but I wouldn't like to try and build a community on it. It's to me, it's not really a community platform. It was between WhatsApp and Facebook. Are you saying we should embrace Kajabi in a different way, or?
So basically, you've got membership subscriptions, right? And Kajabi is a membership subscription platform. Now, depending on the filters that you use, the permissions that you use, you can allow members on Kajabi to see each other or not, right? But the issues with some of these paid platforms or these white label platforms are that they have a cap on the numbers of members that you can invite into the platform. So Kajabi is 10,000 from my recollection or something like that. Now, there are no caps on LinkedIn. There are no caps on Facebook, and recruiter.com on LinkedIn has a group that has over 1 million followers in it, right? And it's absolutely ginormous. Even on WhatsApp, they started changing the size of the groups when they built the community concept. And so on WhatsApp now you can have, I think it's 1,008 in a subgroup and up to 5,000 in the community. But it's unclear for me right now whether you can build that subgroup up past the 5,000. Now that sounds a bit weird, but you can have up to 25-ish subgroups in a community now, which means that, I don't know if you know Shiv, who runs Sourcing Express, Mike, in India. He runs 2 communities on WhatsApp. In total, he has 8,000 members within these communities. Right. Now, my WhatsApp community is 850-ish. My Facebook community is 1,300-ish. I don't talk about LinkedIn, but you see behind all this, I have a huge directory that's closing in on 250,000 people across the supply chain. And so actually what I was doing was starting to externalize the directory that I already have. And I haven't used the directory for any of the community building. I've done that organically. But the answer to your question is, Mike, there are e-learning platforms that probably suit your purpose, that have a community aspect that you can unlock within them. Some of the white label sites you already know of, like Notion, Circle, Mighty Networks, but there are website platforms without the app, and this is a big differentiation. Slack, Mighty Networks, etc. They have an app that will go on the phone, which means your membership is more likely to engage. Right.
Yeah, can I just pick up on that for a second? Because I think this is relevant to anybody who thinks they might like to build a network. If somebody has to go somewhere to see something, they're not likely to do it. So that's why LinkedIn doesn't work very well, because you actually have to go to the group, really, and see if there's anything in there. And no one does that. So with Facebook, you look at your phone, there's an app, it's got a little red dot. Oh, let's have a look at that then. And it's someone in the community saying something. And the same as you say for Mighty as well. Go in, little red thing, oh, I'm going to have a little look. So you really do have to choose a product which is going to be very easy for people to see that there's been activity on the site, don't you?
Yeah, so exactly. Now, I found it easy to migrate people from LinkedIn to WhatsApp, but my WhatsApp and Facebook communities are quite different. The WhatsApp community is UK centric with a lot of Asia Pac, but the Facebook community is UK centric with a lot of North America. So they haven't migrated towards each other because different people use different technology platforms. And so from my perspective, it's not necessarily one platform. And we're talking mainly about the free platforms right now, except for, you know, the likes of Kajabi and Notion. You know, you can take a free subscription and then build it up towards a pro subscription. But here's a good point in case. Slack is an enterprise, enterprise networking product, essentially. Now, the communities that I know that are more in-house orientated use Slack a lot of the time. So there's a community called the Talent Community. They have a website interface with a Slack gateway, and it's huge, right? Because the in-house communities are already on Slack for work. So it's second nature to them. So they don't have to work as hard to attract.
We do have to move on in a second, Mike. So you ask your question and then very quickly.
Really, you've got to choose the platform that suits the community, haven't you? Really.
Exactly. If I was doing in-house, and I'm more executive search rec tech, but if I was doing in-house, I'd use Slack. And I've even considered opening another Slack community just to try and capture.
I do have one question for you. Alex has asked about Discord because he says that most big creators use it, and if it's good enough for them, it's likely good enough for the recruitment bots. Do you agree? If they're aiming for maybe candidates, do you think? Okay,
so I have a love-hate relationship with Discord because a lot of founders use Discord. They find it the platform itself very, very strong. It's a good communication platform, but it's heavy on memory, right? And so as a Chrome extension, it can slow down your system quite quickly. It takes maybe like 30 seconds, 45 seconds to update itself when you open your PC. And in fact, last week I binned Discord. Right, I have a great friend who's a founder. He's a tech founder, and I binned it because it was messing with my other Chrome extensions.
Wow. Okay. So there you go, Alex. There's your answer on Discord. So the next question I want, Jamie, we've sort of touched on a little bit, which is around participation, because in order to have a flourishing community, there needs to be a level of communication. Now, part of that is picking the right platform and everything else. But what other things can you do as somebody who started a community? Because you said now that you've sort of had to do less work after a couple of months, but I assume that at the beginning that's not the case. How do you start participation?
I'm not unique in this, but I'm slightly different to other communities because mine is an all-encompassing community, left and right, up and down, so junior to senior, and all areas of the supply chain within talent acquisition and management. So when it comes to content, I rely on other people, right? And you'll find if you look in particularly Mike in the WhatsApp group, I'm not instigating the conversations a lot of the time. I'm waiting for other people to instigate the conversation and then try and guide them a little bit if they need it, but hopefully someone else comes in who's more knowledgeable than me. right?
What I've noticed you do, because I'm a member of it, if it's quiet for a little bit, you'll prompt things and get things going. You'll put something out there
Yeah,
or ask someone a question or something, and it kicks off again then.
yeah. So I'm going through a stage right now, and it's probably been 3 months ish, where I'm trying to be more hands off because I want the culture of the community to develop itself. I don't want it to be, a cult of personality. And a lot of these communities, and there are a few that will come to mind, but I won't say that, give you their names, that become cults of personality. Oh, such and such, it's that guy's community. Oh, such and such, it's that guy's community. I've reached out to people within the WhatsApp group and said, hi, da 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 da, can I help you with anything? And they've literally said, who are you? I kid you not, and I'm like, okay, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So I do jump in when it gets too quiet, but there's a balance there because I want to be a community manager, not a network leader. Right. And so
that's interesting, because I suspect someone like me would be the opposite. It's the network leader, because it's the brand of Mike Ames, really. Although Kirsty obviously would assume it's the brand of Kirsty Ames, but it is. But for recruiters, and obviously the majority of people watching this show today are recruiters, they'd be more like you, really. It's not so much about them. It's about their community and what's happening in it, I would think. Yeah.
Well, you see, there are examples of rec tech companies who have built great communities. Hireful have sub 1,000, and I think they're using Notion or something like that as a white label. And I think they've got almost 2,000 members in that community, and it's a dynamic community. It goes back to this training conversation that we were having, where Notion can produce the training product, the content, the membership, the companies all on one platform, for instance. But ultimately, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. And with yourself, with the network, you are leading.
Yeah. So if it was a recruiter, and they're either I imagine one of the two communities they'd have is either a candidate network, so that they could have a pool of candidates who are actively engaged in they can dip into, or it might be perhaps if they're dealing more in the search capability, kind of senior people. What kind of things would they expect conversations to start around? Are you like posting articles and asking things? Are you getting people to ask for help? What kind of things would you use to sort of create that bubble of interaction?
Within recruitment, it's a difficult thing to achieve the candidate and client community together, right? For obvious reasons, because there's a conflict there, and at that point as well, you can't invite other recruiters into the community if you're opening your database. But you can create that Friday lunch club, right, and start to build it up. So in the old days, you might invite your heads of industry together for an event. It's that type of thing where you can start to build it up, but you're not talking about recruitment. A lot of the communities that I know
that's a really important point, because when we talk about content, and Pete does this a lot, it's not what you think is content. It's what your audience, your targets, your clients, your prospects, it's what they think is content. And what they think is content is stuff that's interesting, useful, or thought-provoking. Interesting because, I'd like to know that, because it's going to be useful for me at some point. Practically of use, I can use that now. And thought-provoking means I didn't know that. I need to absorb that and take it on board. And that's what content is. But it's not about recruitment. No one cares about recruitment.
It's normally about industry standards.
Yeah, stuff that's in there,
Yeah. So
the challenges that people are going through at any one point in time, So in our industry, we talk a lot about business development now, because 2024 is going to be the year of business development. I'll tell you that now. So we're talking a lot about that, because people are beginning to realize it. And I think it's an interesting point that you raised about the community. And I hadn't connected it, I've got to be honest with you, Jamie. But the stuff that goes in the community is the things that the community really want to talk about now, this instant, not last month or the month before, or a best guess in the future. It's now, isn't it? It's stuff that resonates with them.
Yeah, well, see, my USP is help desk, right? Hopefully, people post a question in WhatsApp and get an instant answer or a fairly instant answer, fairly instant gratification. You don't get that on other platforms, which is why so many communities use WhatsApp. But the way I tend to think about it is more like an event. You're the host of a party. You're not trying to tell people what they should be talking about. You know, that would be odd, wouldn't it? You know?
Yeah.
So I don't try and run the content in that way, but Hireful, for instance, is a in-house ATS CRM marketing product, right? So everything they talk about within the community is in-house orientated. It's much more general, right? And it's not as interesting to me, so I don't spend time in that community, but I respect it, you know, for what it's achieving, what it's doing.
Well, I can vouch for that, being a member of. By the way, I think that Jamie is way too modest to do this himself. But if you are a recruitment company owner or in recruitment, generally speaking, as you said, top to bottom, then I would suggest that you join the Search Markets group. And I'm presuming if people want to do that, they can just connect with you on LinkedIn, and you take it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to add people through referral and all that sort of stuff.
I tend to just dip in and out, quite frankly. I'll go in and have a little look every now and again.
I imagine that's quite common as well, though. You'll get some people who are very active in a group, some people who will sort of lurk in the background, some people who dip in and out. I suppose different characters are going to react in different ways and participate differently.
Yeah, well, you know, numbers are important in this, because if the group is too small or it's too general, you don't get the amount of touch points. You don't get the amount of activity.
What's too small, Jamie, in your opinion? What's that threshold?
Well, I don't know if you know Toby Colshaw at the Talent Intelligence community, but he has a community of 350 on WhatsApp, and that community is very, very lively because they ultimately focus on one area, which is talent intelligence, subgroup of talent acquisition. It's basically talent analytics, and so I think that's a really, really good size. But I know that within my WhatsApp community, that I probably get 1% engagement per day, right? So that's 8 to 10 people, right? Actually posting something and engaging with each other. And that's a normal day. If it goes up to 5%, the thing kicks off. And actually, you know that I've got people coming in and out on a fairly regular basis, because mine are, and we haven't talked about public versus private, but Facebook have public versus private settings. There are gateways on most of the white label products that we've talked about, and you can make them public versus private so people can see what's going on in the community or not. I have searchmarkets.community, which has a gateway on it. I think I made a mistake. I should have made it a public website, so people could see what was going on and then join. Because what you have is the people try and then decide it's not for them, but they're on the Facebook platform and they come in and out of the WhatsApp platform, and it becomes a little bit difficult to manage. But I'm learning fast, I guess.
Okay, fantastic. We're all learning. That's the whole point of this show today. So I very much appreciate that. So in a second, Jamie, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to talk about the benefits of running one, why you would put this time and energy into something.
I've got some questions there, I tell you.
Before then, though, we do have a message from our sponsor, don't we, Mike?
Oh, that's me, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just to be clear, the reason I do this is because someone said to me the other day, actually, who's been tracking me for ages, I don't really know what you do. So we're going to do this every show, not even 2 minutes, like 30 seconds. So Blair is a business growth consultancy for recruitment companies for between 1 and about 15 employees. And what we really want are owners who aren't happy with the income, the freedom, the job role, and of course the wealth that they're building for themselves, and they want to change their business, and that's what we do with them. We have an entry level, which is online. We have a masterclass, which is in person. And finally, we have private client, which is me. There's a bit of a waiting list, but it comes up from time to time. So if you want to get more from your recruitment business, all you need to do is email tell me more to mike@flair.uk and we'll have an informal chat. So hope that's okay. Back to the show.
There you go. Okay. So, Jamie, as I mentioned, you've explained that there is an element of investment into when you're starting a community. You have to put time in. You have to kind of figure out the kind of people. You have to have a network to monopolize. What kind of benefits can you get from actually running a community?
Well, I mean, let's talk about the monetization side of things, because different communities can be monetized in different ways. The most obvious is subscription, so monthly or annual subscriptions. Now, all of my communities are free, but my websites are not free, they're freemium. And the next level for me will be going to a network concept where I actually allow people into my directory, and that will be a membership subscription. But the way most recruitment membership communities work is through affiliate marketing. So, Andy Hallett, Dr. Doherty, Charlotte Doherty over at RecWide, they run affiliate marketing and have close connections with about 50 different vendors who pay them for advertising space and or affiliate marketing when their products are sold. Now, in terms of, and that's normal, actually. That seems to be the industry standard. And the Pirates do a similar thing, and RecConnect does a similar thing as well. So they're all, great people and great organizations. But for me, I wanted to move away from the affiliate marketing because I also do a bit of advisory like you, Mike, and I can't do advisory and affiliate marketing. Someone says I want to change my ATS. I'm like, hey, bullhorn. It doesn't work.
We're exactly the same for the same reason, because I feel it compromises me in my position to be tied to a particular sponsor.
No, exactly. So there are standard ways of doing it, but it's generally membership subscriptions and then affiliate marketing. But I view these communities in a similar way to outbound marketing, right? And this is what you've got to think about in terms of your funnel. In a recruitment funnel, I mean, you might have slightly different ideas, but in the old days, you have top, middle, bottom, source, engage, hire. These days, especially when you look at RegTech, you tend to have source, engage, select, hire, and communities tend to be within engagement, right? And it's all about nurturing the communities. And so you're feeding them content. And this is where we talked before the live about populations and demographics and knowing who your potential community is and having an idea of that group. And that's a finite group, right? Rather than niche being the subject matter, it's a finite group that you want to bring in and nurture. And actually doing it within a community is easier than doing it with a following. So you might have 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, but are they actively engaged? Right? If someone is a member of a community, they generally are actively engaged, even if they're just passively viewing the content. Otherwise, they leave the community, and you see the analytics of this going backwards and forwards. And on some community sites, you will get that dashboard of the analytics going up and down. You can track it on Kajabi.
I've seen that Kajabi's got some really good analytics attached to it. I've got a question for you then. I've got a client and they run webinars aimed at candidates. They don't have any problem getting clients in the space that they're in. I won't tell you what it is, but candidates are a trouble for them. And they'll run webinars. They've worked with this for a time, and they can get 250. I think they maxed out at 500 because they went past their limit for one. So they've got a lot of candidates coming. But they're not really doing anything with that. They do the thing, but they don't then do anything with the output from it. They would be ideal, would they not, for some kind of community? Because clearly they're putting stuff out there that people are interested in, obviously, else they wouldn't come. But if they could translate that into a community, surely that's going to engage candidates and give you a much greater opportunity to advertise your own jobs in that community. Is that, am I too far?
Exactly. So for me, I'm very systems and process orientated because I came from a retained executive search background way back when. So I think about my finite population, call it 2,500 people. In fact, let's go to the real numbers. LinkedIn, when I started WhatsApp, was 5,000 recruiters coded, staffing and recruiting. I converted over 3 months about 20% of those into WhatsApp. And then there's the attrition rates. So it's about direct, for me, it was about direct marketing, then capture, then nurture. You know, in that order. Now, my hope is that the community nurtures itself, right? Now, if you're doing training and you're doing webinars, you're producing content to keep interest, right? And it goes back to the conversation about network versus community, you know, how you manage these. But it's, you know, marketing, capture, nurture, sell.
Let me ask another question then on the back of that. If there's a recruitment company owner watching this now and thinking, yeah, I'm kind of liking the sound of this. I understand now. I've got a better view on Facebook and WhatsApp, the actual platform. I've listened to how to grow it and directly get people in. Yeah, that's great. I think I know the community. But if that community were candidates, what advice would you give that recruitment company owner? They're not interested in clients. They want to attract a community of potential candidates.
Well, you have to find a subject that interests that community of candidates that isn't jobs. However, sure. This is done in different ways, right? So there's a company called Tech Finder with a Y in Dublin. They are a SaaS platform that offers recruitment services. Now, essentially what they do is they attract technology candidates onto their platform and then run a membership subscription for clients to go into that platform and see qualified candidates. So nobody within this platform is a passive job seeker. And they've been qualified as to salary, et cetera. Now, these clients are able to move around the ecosystem there, but then the clients are not seen by the candidates, for instance, right? So they're, you know, and then the next stage up is that the guys at Tech Finders can shortlist candidates for clients within the system, and there is a applicant tracking system in there, and then they can do the whole recruitment process for them. But that's just an example of how some people are doing it. Now, I've been asked, I mean, literally 2 weeks after I started, I was asked by a close friend who runs a contact center recruitment company. And his question was really about the content that he would have to keep producing to keep people engaged. It wasn't about the numbers of candidates, or whether they were candidates or clients, or what platforms he was on, et cetera. It was how much content would he have to produce to keep them interested within the ecosystem, right? And that can be, that's why there's quite a high barrier to entry, right? Communities, because it doesn't sit still. If it sits still, it dies off. If you've created a network style community where you're the leader, you're expected to create content. If you don't create content, people cancel their subscriptions and move off. And we're back to OnlyFans.
Like silk shirts, or as Alex said, silk shirts and silk bedding. So, Mike, that could be a big one there. But no, I like that because it's a bit like a shark, isn't it? You have to keep moving forward or you'll die. But you can use the community, I'm assuming, to sense check content that you're creating if you're creating it for a wider thing. So you've got this group of people who are your targets that you're working well off. You could use them for research. You could use them as a proofing group sometimes. Could you? Is that something that you can do as somebody who sort of runs it, or is that taking advantage and not really done?
No. Look, I'm quite open about what I do within the WhatsApp community, because the WhatsApp community is building in public. It was my sandbox. There are subgroups open and closing, and names of subgroups changing, and topics changing, or were changing fairly frequently. And so I try a whole load of different things, but you see, I'm moving towards community websites, which are dynamic websites where you have your member profile, your company profile, your blogs, your vlogs, the whole lot, and it's dynamic with content, etc., etc. So,
but for that to work as a community, though, as we said earlier, somebody has to download the app, basically, of whatever community platform you choose, into their phone so that they can see that somebody has put a message on, or there's a conversation going on, or sent them a message. Because if they don't do that, they've got to remember to go into the community, and they probably won't do that. That's my understanding.
Well, it depends which platform you're using. All the white labels that we talked about have alerts, and it depends what filter you put on your alerts. So just like Facebook or LinkedIn, because these are all like Facebook, LinkedIn had a baby and produced Mighty Networks. So you can get the reminders on email, right? And that's how people go in and out. Slack is ahead, and certain products are ahead. But here's the thing: you see, Mighty Networks and some of them others that we haven't that we talked about, they don't allow you to white label. So the app is Mighty Networks. It's not search markets. It's not.
But it's very powerful, though. One of my clients has built a HR network on Mighty, and I was blown away when I saw what they'd done. For some reason, HR directors really like that online community thing. Who knew? But there's loads of them, and they're just so active in there. And I don't know how many people are in. I would imagine probably 150 to 200. I would think. I don't know. But it's the platform that makes it work. But they do go there. They actually physically go there, and they encourage them with events and various things to draw them in.
Well, it's the fact that these apps are able to hold the content that people share. So on Mighty Networks, for instance, if someone shares a PDF, you can go searching for it, a year later in a different way to what you are able to do on WhatsApp. If you don't keep up with WhatsApp, you essentially use it, right? But the Mighty Networks, you don't, because you can collate the information in a different way, which is
okay.
Those files.
All right, guys, this has been fantastic. I've lost track of time because I was listening so hard. So that's my problem. But we are coming to the end of the show now. So in a second, Jamie, we're going to come to you and ask your top tip for somebody who is thinking about starting a community. So do you stay there 1 second. But before then, Mike, let's talk about who we've got next week. I believe it's Backdoor Barry.
Backdoor Barry's on the show. Now, you might not think that Backdoor Barry would have much to say about this, but at a recent thing that I met him in, and we were talking about this, he's got a completely different approach or angle or things to say about getting more retained and exclusive vacancies, which, by the way, as the market flattens, becomes more difficult. It just does, right? So, and certainly if you're in business development mode, you're going out trying to win new clients, that's even harder. So if you're interested on getting more retained and exclusive vacancies, tune in 2 weeks' time for me, Kirsty, and Backdoor Barry.
We're all very excited about that. Okay, so Jamie, as we mentioned, somebody is watching this thinking a community sounds like the answer to all of my prayers. I'm very excited about it. What is the what's the first thing they should do? What's the first thing they should get in place?
I think it's know your population demographic, know your groups, know that finite number, head count of people that you think you're really close to, because you need to be able to attract them, and there needs to be a core that drives the community to begin with. Otherwise, it can fail very, very quickly. You know, I was part of a community that took 3.5 years to get to 350 people, and I helped drive it at the very, very beginning. I personally look at the numbers in terms of what I used to call consultant velocity, right? When I was hiring, you get a number of consultants together, or consultant hiring velocity, you get a number of consultants together and they start hiring other consultants into their teams. Now, it's the same with communities, right? I truthfully on WhatsApp think that's more like 1,000 members, but you need to have enough people and enough going on to, like, you know, for people to start to refer and capture. So I like know your core individuals, get to know your people and attract them into the space, and they'll help you.
Perfect. That sounds like a winner to me. Okay, Mike, we're about to end the show. Is there anything you'd like to say to round up?
Well, I'd like to thank Jamie for coming on the show. I've been fascinated. Less Mikey time. I know you're all disappointed. I've not been talking as much, but I've been mesmerised by what he's been saying. And my brain is going like that, because I'm just thinking that this is something that everybody can use. It doesn't have to be someone like me in the consultancy space. Recruiters can use it to attract clients or client communities, HR directors, or candidates. So I think there's a lot there to take away. And I'm so grateful for you coming on the show, but also for being so open and sharing with us. So, Jamie, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
You've been fantastic.
Okay.
I'd like to thank everybody who's watched us. We've had some people watching from all around the world, some from Uruguay, from Paraguay, which is very nice. So thank you very, very much for watching today. Thank you again to Jamie, who has been absolutely fantastic. I suppose I should say thank you to Mike for just being quiet today, actually.
And thank you, Kirsty, for the Kirsty Egg Show. Love it.
You're very welcome. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
We will.